degree in human development. And it was through that study that I realized I really wanted to focus with youth and see what I could do as far as giving back to youth and building self-esteem. I've worked over 6 years in youth services. 4 of those years have been with the YWCA. As it states, the YWCA, our focus is on women and girls, so I do have a special interest in that area and have been very committed to providing quality services for young girls in this community.
Very good. As a matter of fact, I think that there's a new emphasis in Nashville in terms of helping young females, and we want to talk about that, Ms. Avienneau, with you this morning. Captain Meece, I think you've already indicated that you've got a variety of experiences in the Metropolitan Police Department, and let's have you this morning to draw from those experiences and to talk to our audience about the youth situation that you saw when you first became involved with the Metropolitan Police Department, and the current youth situation in terms of, and I think that when we talk about the current youth situation, we're talking about over the last several days, at least 4 young people being found dead for one reason or the other. Now, how do you go from when you entered into the department and the status of youth activity, youth criminal activity, and et cetera, and what is going on now? Talk to us about that for a while, will you please?
That's an interesting question, because as a patrol officer, it was not at all unusual for me to see juveniles involved in violent offenses. From a police standpoint, the issue of juvenile crime is not a new issue. And you'll talk to many officers who have, over several decades of police service, seen children involved in violent behavior. There was somewhat of a different atmosphere back in the early 70s, and that's really when I kind of arrived on the scene, as it related to how we dealt with juveniles, because a juvenile's record, as it relates to any arrest history, is a confidential document. It is not available to anyone in the community other than a specific criteria of people. So in the 70s, the community would not be aware that juveniles were doing violent things. There was another element to that that was a little bit unusual, and that's that sometimes crime is not reported, and sometimes if juveniles are involved in crime, there's no way, at least at that point in time, to trace crime back to them because of the confidential nature of juvenile activities in violation of the law. We might not have any information in our system that would link a juvenile back to a particular offense. For example, if a juvenile had committed a murder back in the 70s, and at the scene of that particular crime we found latent prints, fingerprints, there would probably not be fingerprints on file in our identification division that we could compare to those prints. So it's very possible that juveniles were committing crimes. Maybe the crimes were reported, but we did not know that they had been involved. So when the issue began to arise in the mid-'80s and it became much more of a public issue, it was not a new issue for us. It was an ongoing issue that was raising concerns, obviously, but not a new issue. What was a little bit different and what is a little bit different is that there is a very strong drug culture. And we know that, particularly as it relates to those crimes that really incense us, there's probably a drug link to those crimes. And we also know that guns are as prevalent as they ever were because we have such a love affair with firearms in this country. And juveniles are able to get firearms, they can get them quickly, and they're using them to a larger degree than they ever did in the past, primarily because of the accessibility of those crimes. So, although there's a significant difference, I guess particularly because of the drugs and the increased homicides, it isn't a new issue. It's an ongoing issue for us that we continue to be concerned about.
Okay, now I think we've got about 25 seconds, Ms. Avienneau, before we have our first break today. And we'd like to sort of give you an opportunity after this break to talk about the female side of the situation. I think that quite recently quite a bit of information has been given in terms of the glass ceiling and some of the opportunities and possibilities for females. And I think you can also relate that to some of the things that we've already talked about. And we'll be back with you following this commercial break.